Welcome back to Retro Wednesday. It's Titanium Hanger. This is Mike. Today I want to talk to you about G.I. Joe 1991, every figure, vehicle, and a playset. And we're on this journey from 1982 to 1994. This is generally what's considered the vintage era of G.I. Joe. Now, I'm not going to have every vehicle as we get deeper into the 90s, and I'm going to be missing a few weapons, accessories here and there because I'm not committed to 100% of everything, but I'm pretty darn close. And I do want to say that by the time we got to 1991, a lot of kids that were collecting in 1982, 83, 84, many of them have started aging out. And me entirely, I did not have any of these back in the day as a kid. So a lot of this is new to me, and it's fun, and a lot of this is going to be new to you. So check this out on this Retro Wednesday coming up. We're going to start out with Big Ben over here. Now, this is sort of my understanding is like a British UK soldier or something along those lines, but it does look cool. Does look pretty much like what you would expect out of a standard soldier. So this is kind of still rooted in G.I. Joe and a pretty cool looking figure overall. He does have he's back heavy with a giant backpack. Has some face paint on him. He's got interesting looking molded in hat that he's got going on right there, which looks very consistent with the style. He has some ammo belts on him, and he's got two different colors of green, wearing a kind of a heavy jacket. The backpack's huge. I would think something would clip into it, but it doesn't. But his biggest feature, I would say, is this bomb bag that he has, and it opens up, and inside he has these two grenades that he just stores in there. Probably the hardest part with getting this guy is getting these grenades intact. So that was kind of what I waited for, to get one that had some grenades in there. But it does hold pretty good, and it clips closed, so that's kind of cool. He has this giant gun right here, which is really awesome too. It's huge. I mean, it's a big old gun for this guy. It kind of looks like how I would have him hold the gun. But yeah, pretty cool. Big Ben, not a bad start to 1991 for G.I. Joe. Next up, we have Dusty version 3, and this is definitely a departure from Dusty. He's got a beret on instead, and he comes with a dog. Well, is it a dog? Is it a wolf? What exactly is this over here? This is Sandstorm. I don't really know what Sandstorm is. For some reason, I always thought he was like a wolf or a fox, or no, not a wolf, a fox. I always thought he was a fox. Anyway, okay, so let's get into the figure himself. He does kind of have sort of that desert look to him, like he's always had. So that's there, but he's, instead of wearing that cloth good on his head, he has a beret, and so that's different. And he's got these two weapons in here, and I wouldn't say he's really all that hard to find complete, but it's not the easiest one to find complete. Look, he's got this larger gun, and then he's got a little pistol with him, and so we start getting into, I'm not even sure, I think this pistol gets reused, but a different color, which is kind of smart when you start reusing some of this stuff and recoloring them, and you don't notice, but some of these are so obvious reuse down the road, especially in the 90s. Here's his backpack. It's kind of cool. Really nothing interacting with it. It's just a backpack, and this does another one that feels very G.I. Joe. Feels very much like something you could have gotten in 1985, and it would have fit right in. So pretty cool looking. And then with the overall typical color scheme, sleeveless shirt, which is interesting. And then it's got a little molded in gun on the side there, but of course he's got his own pistol. So still a pretty cool figure, and still right in line there. We're about to go a little bit outer space though. Next up we have Heavy Duty, and he's heavy duty because he comes with a bunch of heavy equipment, but let's look at the figure real quick. It's a lot of pain getting his equipment on and off of him, but he does look like a standard military guy. Definitely heavily featured, heavy duty, heavily featured in the Deke animation. And he's got this kind of camo pants that's going on right there. He's got a shirt that just basically looks like a sleeveless kind of shirt going on there. And tattoo. I don't know what exactly is that tattoo on them. I can't quite make it out. I don't know if this is going to cover it. Anyway, he's got a strap. Looks like a strap on him, but the figure himself is pretty cool. Backwards hat, of course. Got his backwards hat. But the cool part is all of this equipment. Now he's got 2 missile firing, missile launching, missile launchers. He's got this dual laser blaster in the front. There's his backpack, and I have kind of got mine taped on. It's kind of broken, so the sight that falls off breaks off very easily. I mean, I got a broken one, easily saved $20 or $30 because getting this thing 100% complete and unbroken is not easy. And you can get a cheap one, like I did, and have some broken stuff on it, but it's really interesting. Also, if it wasn't broken, the sight could flip up. So it's made to flip up out of his way and then flip down on his face. But mine, of course, doesn't operate properly. But still, it's a really cool figure, very interesting. And you're talking some 90s stuff. You got a little neon in it. You got some neon in his hat and neon in the missiles that launch. But the rest feels very based in G.I. Joe reality. This is heavy duty. So now we get into what they're calling General Hawk version 1, which was always kind of confusing to me, but it is what it is, so we're just going to run with it. He is kind of the beginning of these space suit costume kind of characters, and he's got that helmet on there, which it is pretty cool that he's got that helmet, and there's a lot of cool stuff about this guy, actually. And he's got this jetpack, and he's got this gun. And so that's pretty much his accessories. But it is interesting because the jetpack is probably my favorite part of the whole thing, which oddly enough, and the wings are adjustable. You can make them go all the way back like that, or however you want. So that's pretty cool. You got 4 missiles that just tab on. They're not dog bone. They're just kind of a tab and slot kind of deal going on there. And he's got a spacesuit. So kind of feeling like a bit of, what was it, Payload? Kind of feeling a little bit like Payload in a way, and copying and mimicking that. And his helmet does come off. The glass, the clear plastic glass piece does come out. It's missing a lot of the time, but this exact part is reused and recolored for, like, I don't know, 4 figures, 3 or 4 figures, something like that. We're going to see all that in the upcoming years. But his costume here looks pretty cool. Kind of a lighter green, and he's got a bit of a tan to it. And he's got some molded in what appears to be a few things like grenades and stuff on there. Now, he was featured heavily in this costume, this uniform, in the Deke show. And so this is probably what kids know the most. I think he sold pretty well because there's a lot of them out there on the secondary market. But Hawk, General Hawk, version 1. All right, now we got Grunt. They're saying it's Grunt version 3. So now I'm thinking, what was version 2? Okay, version 2 Grunt was that recolor to tan, I believe. Okay, so this is version 3. Not what I feel like. It doesn't feel like a Grunt to me, to tell you the truth. But it is what it is. And so first thing I want to say, he is a bit bland, on the bland side. He does have kind of a tan jacket, and for whatever reason, he's wearing sort of a mustardy, orangish pants. He does have a removable helmet, which can be a problem. He's kind of got that Clark Kent little curl going on his forehead there. But this is a really nice helmet. It looks good on, and it comes on and off easy. And it's the departure from the old style of helmets that they made. Now, he does come with 2 weapons. He comes with this gun here, which has holes in the side, so it could plug into something. So maybe, I think this gets reused for something else down the road. But not exactly sure what the holes in the side. Maybe the holes in the side, it can clip onto this thing. Oh, yeah, there it is. I've had this figure for a while and never even noticed that. You can clip the gun to this if you want to. And we have the launcher with a bipod. Now, these bipods are much easier to get than, say, like a Dusty version 1 or 2 bipod, and some of these other bipods that are hard, almost possible to get. So this is a much easier one to get. Now, this does launch, and so this is where we start getting into the launching mechanisms. And we're going to have a lot of them in the 90s. Lots of them. They're obsessed with the launching. And I think a lot of kids like that. I mean, if you grew up with it and that's what you had, you kind of like it. As collectors from the early 80s, we just didn't have that. The figure's packed with a launcher in them, with them, but we're going to see a whole lot more of this. Here is the back of the guy. No backpack or anything. And I don't believe this can clip to his back. So a lot of these launchers, oh, there it is. Maybe it does clip to his back. Let's see here. Does that clip? No. That's just his handle, so he can hold it. So, Anyway, no clipping to the back. You got to hold this giant thing. This is Grunt version 3. Next up we have Tracker, and I am just like mind blown that this is something that all was on a card back. Well, one figure, accessories, this headpiece, and an inflatable raft, which is really cool. Now, the reason I have more than one of these figures is because I was able to get a figure more or less complete with all of his stuff, and then a figure with just the raft, and then I had 2, and then I just kept wanting to complete those and ended up with 3, but they're not all complete, but I guess I got 2 of them complete. Anyhow, I just was infatuated with this figure. I thought it was a really cool figure, a cool idea, a cool concept, and the Fun School one is blue, so I wish I would have picked up one of those because I saw one go pretty cheap. But let's look at this figure here. He looks like he's kind of in a jump track suit, kind of like he's gonna go run track, and he's got some, what are those, like some Reebok pumps? I don't know. He's got some crazy shoes on, and a pretty interesting overall figure. And he's got what feels like Geordie LaForge kind of eyepiece on. I mean, there's a mix of so many things from what was going on in the 90s that was just included in this. And then there's this gun, and I guess that's where that gun goes. I had an extra gun in a lot, and it's like, it goes in this year somewhere, and then he comes with 2 ores, not just the one, but he comes with 2, and so I have it in there, but I want to display him with an ore in his hand. And yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. Let's look at this raft real quick. You do have to blow it up and inflate it. It is black on the bottom and then orange on the top, and it does float. Well, okay, hold on a second. I'm going to save that for if and when I can get around to making a Does It Float video. But anyhow, this is Tracker. I think it was a really interesting idea that all this is packed on a blistered card back for a figure, and it is really one of the cool things from the 90s. All right, next up we have Lowlight version 3, and we do see him again as a Dino Hunter. Pretty much the exact same figure and more or less the same accessories. Now, this dude is kind of cool. He's got this removable helmet and another one. So a lot of this kind of face paint stuff that they've got going on with them. And then on his helmet, he's got this visor that comes down. That's pretty cool too. And on the back here, he's got a knife that goes into this. Now, I might not have the exact right knife with this, so I will admit that might not be the right one. I have to go check. Seems awfully small for that big old backpack. And then he's got whatever this gizmo is here. Now, it doesn't stay in, so I put like a little piece of tape to surround it so it stays in a little bit better. But he's got this gun. Now, you're going to see this gun a lot going forward. I think they just reuse this gun, recolor this gun for multiple different figures. So it is a pretty cool, like kind of a sniper laser rifle kind of thing going on. Now, as for the figure himself, he's in an interesting color scheme here where he has kind of some aqua accents, some gray accents, and then he has some brown, black, and gray. Almost looks like he's got some, is it Kevlar that he's wearing? I'm not sure what he's wearing, but still, it's a pretty interesting figure overall. Very cool. Kind of almost feels like one you'd call a Night Force figure. I mean, that really does feel like it would fit in with your Night Force team, but this is Lowlight version 3. We have Mercy with Mercer. And this is Mercer version 2. If you notice, for whatever reason, they only redid, I believe, only one of the Renegades, of the Slaughter's Renegades here, into later in the line. I don't know why they picked him. And my understanding was something maybe in the comic books or something along those lines. But that's why he was popular in the books or something. But here he comes with this gun, whatever he's got going on with that. That actually kind of looks like a Super Soaker, to tell you the truth. It's the feeling I got when I first saw it. And then he's got this other gun over here which gets reused down the road for Carcass, but Carcass can't hold it, so we'll get into that kind of stuff there. And he has this backpack, which is really interesting. So they start doing interesting stuff here with this backpack. It folds up and it can go over, and he have this over the shoulder missile launcher going on. It has this handle here and I guess this giant trigger. Oh, okay, I'll never see that again. But yeah, that's Mercer. And he does look kind of cool. He is different looking than his first version, a completely different look, and that's a note that I had on it so I could remember his name when I was trying to piece them together. But anyway, this is Mercer, and he's got like is that a grenade right there? And some other cool accent colors to him, some black and blue and gray color scheme, silver color scheme. There he is from the back. But why did they only redo one? Well, because for whatever reason they decided he was going to go on to have a bigger role. Maybe it was because, wasn't he the one that was originally like Cribs of Guard or something? Mercer. Next up we have Red Star, and he is part of the October Guard, which is kind of like a Russian unit that is kind of at odds with G.I. Joe, but yet at the same time it's like if an enemy of my enemy is my friend, in a way. That's kind of how the whole relationship was with the October Guard and G.I. Joe, from what I saw from... I didn't watch the whole D era, but I watched some of it. Anyway, I was happy to see that finally, after years, this hat I got in a Cops and Crooks lot, actually, I could put it to use, because it actually went on him, so that was pretty cool. But with that, he has some interesting features here. Now, they're carrying over the Falcon style of antenna, but this is not the same antenna. So if you have this antenna, it's like, oh, well, it's not the same one. It's completely different. But it is kind of cool. He also has a knife that goes into there. And so he's got a lot of gear. And he has an ammo belt, which goes to this thing here, which has kind of like... It looks like these should move. And they probably do. But it feels like they're going to fall out as I move them. So these two both rotate. So that would be kind of like a rotating machine gun kind of thing going on right there. Then he has this giant missile launcher with a very... It's kind of a unique kind of bazooka that's right there. And it does fire. I think you push in on this to make it fire. So everything's kind of unique about this guy. It's really strange. Really, really strange how unique all this stuff is. And he's kind of got some... Well, first off, he got a broken crotch. He's got a broken crotch. He's got a kind of a tan look to him. And interesting, his undershirt has stripes on it. And that's really kind of an interesting thing. Nice blue accents to him, but pretty cool, interesting. He's a little bland, but then... You know, later on down the road, I think they reuse this mold and then they just create a whole other character with it, like a 98 or something like that. But this is Red Star, part of the October Guard, and a buddy of mine's like super into tracking down every October Guard, and so he loves this figure. I think he's pretty cool. This is Sci-Fi version 2, and I think that he's almost toned down from his first version a little bit, but at the same time, he does look kind of cool. So there's interesting stuff that they've done with him. He's got an interesting helmet too, which some of these, a lot of these helmets don't get reused, which I find to be strange. But yeah, it comes off. There's his head, and that looks interesting. And then a lot of work to get that helmet. This helmet does not want to come off and go on very easy. Hard stuff there. Now, this is where I start getting into how do you store your extra stuff, and I get these little hair bands from my wife and just put them on there so that you can store the extra missile there. Because, I mean, what am I going to do with all these extra parts and pieces? I'm not going to have a baggie, 500 baggies, because 500 figures only have 500 baggies of extra parts. And by the time if I ever want to, like, for whatever reason, hey, I want to show every piece, digging them out would be very hard. So they're all more or less self-contained. Now, he does have this giant missile launcher, which is connected by one of the standard tubes that they use for connection. There's his backpack. That is his backpack right there. And the tube. So it's pretty cool. And the launching gimmick, where does the launcher launch from? You push on this, I believe. It's down. Oh, it just launched. Yeah, there it goes. Push down on it. Not the easiest launcher to get launching, that's for sure. Also, it comes with this gun here, which gets reused, I think, 5 more times. Something along those lines. And I do kind of like his look. He's got a kind of a black vest on. He's all gray with some yellow accents. And pretty interesting. This one here. This is Sci-Fi version 2. So we've got Snake Eyes, and I think we're up to version 4 on Snake Eyes. And he does look pretty interesting. pretty interesting. Now, does he feel like Snake Eyes to me? No, he actually feels like a whole different character than Snake Eyes. But yes, he is supposed to be Snake Eyes. Now, he does come with his launcher. Now, this one's a little bit different because it has a string attached to it, so it's more or less a grapple, and you just push this to shoot it. I have the string kind of wound on there because, I mean, what are you going to do? And I got a blue stand. I think this is, I don't know, I guess I should look that up, if they came with stands just yet, because later in the 90s they do come with stands when they have the sprues, but we're not into the sprues yet. So I don't think we're quite into the stands yet, but I do have a blue stand for him. Anyway, he comes with a sword, which kind of a cool looking orange sword. It sort of matches his grapple thing, and he comes with this gun here. I think he might actually come with more stuff. Now, when I started collecting this 90s stuff, I was just like, man, if they've come with 5 weapons, if I got one in each hand, I'm pretty good on 90s weapons. But I'll look in editing. Maybe if it comes a whole bunch more stuff, I'll put a picture up. But he does have kind of a gray vest, some black pants there. I do kind of like the sleekness of the lower body, and the upper body seems like he's kind of out for armored up kind of stuff, but he is pretty interesting looking. Again, though, doesn't feel like Snake Eyes. It feels like a huge departure from Snake Eyes, just the whole way he is set up, and having this grapple launcher. I'm not sure that this is what kids were wanting out of a Snake Eyes back in the day, but it's what we got. Next, we're getting into Eco Warriors, and this is not ego like they are really proud of themselves here. It's eco as in they're trying to compete with other toy lines that are out there, kind of like maybe a Captain Planet, Toxic Avengers, like Toxie and Toxic Avengers, that kind of stuff. Maybe that's what was going on. I don't know what year that stuff came out, but that this toy line, it's kind of like, it's all about spraying water gimmicks, and then when the water hits them, there's paint that kind of changes. It didn't last. That feature sort of just kind of wore off or permanently stained it, and so that's not the greatest thing. But let's get in and start and look at Clean Sweep here, and I believe that's who he is according to yojo.com. I go in order of all that. So he has this backpack with a control panel that connects to it, and so those are separate pieces. And it also, I believe it connects to, no, that's just how it goes. So he's got a control panel to control this device, which is just a squirt gun, pretty much, I think. I think that's what it does. This little orange button looks like a button, but it doesn't really seem like it does anything. But it's all about squirt gun stuff. Yeah, there it is. It just squirts out here, yep. So you fill it up with water and just squirt it. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. I don't think that's not really a fun thing. Anyway, this guy's in yellow. He comes with this helmet and pretty interesting, cool figure overall, but at the same time, kind of lame. I mean, really, they got their hazmat suits on. Like, if you're a kid, you could say, hey, this is recreate some ET, and here comes some dudes with hazmat suits. Or you could say this is the guy you bring in anytime there's whatever. Maybe this is the guy you see that comes in, and he's the one in Back to the Future that Marty McFly dresses up as, just whatever you want to say. Now, next we get into Flint version 3. And this one is pretty cool too. Now, he's got his own removable helmet, and the helmet looks a lot like a figure we're going to see here in a bit that has a molded in helmet. There's his hair. Now, oddly enough, like these Eco Warriors this year and these figures are pretty cheap. Pretty easy to get. Got a blue giant laser gun, and then he's got his Eco Warrior water blaster. And then these all have these squishy water pusher, water squeezer. But he's all in green. Now, this is neon. This is like the neon 90s at its finest, or maybe at its lowest point. If you can see on here, he's got some red accents. That is paint that is supposed to change when they get sprayed. And now it's just permanently stains the figure. And you see that throughout the entire Eco Warriors line. Almost every figure has that problem. nowadays. Very few actually work properly, and it's just the paint wore off, or the whole hyper color change thing just kind of wore off. Same thing we're going to see on Ozone. Okay, this dude, they made like 4 of him, and we'll see all of them as we go forward. But when I say 4 of him, 4 of the exact same figure with the exact same everything except just recolored, and then of course different accessories. But the figure itself just recolored 3 different times. Exact same figure, recolored 3 different times. Now he comes with pretty much a similar type of water spraying hose with backpack as we saw with Flint. But he's got a different gun here. It's almost like a vacuum kind of thing that he's got going on. Still, it's interesting. It's got almost feels like Ghostbusters-ish on these accessories. And this one's blue. You can see where he's stained with that hypercolor stuff. Anyway, this is the Eco Warriors, and they're all right. All right, now we're getting into these supersonic fighters here, because they have backpacks that make some noise. There are 4 good guys and a couple of bad guys. We will get into looking at the bad guys. The Cobra, when we get to Cobra, some of them have trouble standing with a ginormous backpack on their back. We're going to get into starting with talking about Dial Tone version 3 here, which is, of course, just Dial Tone, recolored, and a ridiculous amount of accessories. And so we have this here, which is pretty much Charbroils in black. Isn't this Night Force version of Charbroil? Now that you think about it, it's Night Force's Charbroil. And we've got this gun here, which is a recolor of one of the ones from Battle Force 2000. Is it Dodger? I'm not even sure which one it came with. And then he has this giant gun here, which is a reuse from yet another figure. But it's a recolor. So the other one was silver, and it was on, I'm forgetting his name, but it'll come to me. And then this one here is a nice little laser blaster. So all these weapons and accessories, just extra add-ons. I figure out ways to make it all just kind of fit on them. But this is where the real gimmick comes in. He has a satellite thing there, and they all have about the same noises that they make. They're all very similar. I had a hard time getting some of these to work. I changed the batteries in all of them. I don't think any of them worked right out the gate. I had to change the batteries in every one of them. And sometimes they just didn't quite, line up right or something. It was a pain. So now we're getting into, so this is Dodger. So no, that other one, I don't know who, I can't remember the name of which one that gun goes with. So here's Dodger, and he's got a kind of a teal backpack, and it's just a repaint. So here we go with repaints, and this antenna is probably a hard piece to get on him. Also, he has that microphone like he had from the original figure, and then he comes with these other weapons that have nothing to do with him, but we see them repurposed all the way through the rest of the 90s over and over again, and they get recolored. But he's just a recolor of his first self from the Battle Force 2000, and he looks like you'd expect. In fact, I want to say this, I had this version first before I had the Battle Force 2000 one in my modern collection. And I was like, wait, this guy's not colored right. Oh, he goes with this. And I probably have to press these kind of hard. Nothing special about the sound effects. There's nothing special at all. And if you're like a completist, them working probably is not something that really should matter, in my opinion. But I did take that one semester of electronics, so I can change batteries. Anyway, all right, so we're getting into Law. There's no order with this guy. It's just Law version 2. He has this giant black gun, which is cool, and I'm sure it's reused for others. I just can't think off the top of my head which one. And then we have this one here, which is another Battle Force 2000 gun, reused, but recast in black. He still carries over with his helmet. Mine has kind of a loose head. And I had this figure for a while, but was missing his stuff, and I thought he was like a 90s version of Law. But his stuff works. Okay, sort of. Alright, that one didn't work. Anyway, not like that matters to me. I'm not losing sleep, but trying to get him to stand up with the giant backpack. Some of them just can't. even with new rubber bands, they just can't handle it. Now, we're getting into Tunnel Rat here. So out of all of this line, I think Tunnel Rat's the coolest of them. He does come with this kind of mortar. That's the hardest part to get because it's recolored and it's very special to him. Then he has this gun. This is Cobra Commander's gun from the armored Cobra Commander, but it is repurposed for him. And he is pretty much just the same Tunnel Rat, but recolored. And I think that this one is the third version of Tunnel Rat, because of course we have the Night Force one, but he does still have that big old Tunnel Rat gun. And he's got another gun from another Battle Force 2000 character, but recolored to black. So this is so weird how they went about doing all of this. And does his backpack work? Ammo. Gotta wait for one to end before the next one works. So this is not the greatest idea for it, but maybe some kids had some fun with this back in the day. This is Supersonic Fighters. We see more of this gimmick down the road. So the way this is going to work out with the Air Commanders, we're able to take a step from G.I. Joe and go into Cobra at this point. So here we are with the Air Commanders, and we have on the bad guy side, we have the Sky Creeper and the Night Vulture? And then over here, Night Vulture or Night Viper? I think it's Night Vulture. And then over here we have Skymate and Cloud Burst. And the thing about them is that they all came with kind of these flyers. So you have the bad guy one, and they all came with different ones. They're slightly different, but to me, I mean, I don't really care. The only reason I even have these is because I wanted a complete figure, and it was the same price to get one complete with their flying device and as it would be for getting one just standard complete. So I was like, well, might as well just get them with their flying device. But it's cool, it's interesting just to have to show. But it's a gimmick where because of the fact that you're supposed to clip your figure to this and throw it, accessories probably got lost in the grass outside, and this makes this series of figures really hard to get complete and unbroken. And so these figures probably sustained a lot of damage over the years. And to say that you have stuff, we'll start with this Cloudburst here, but to say you have this clear visor that could easily fall off, and then just that one gun that this exact gun doesn't get reused with anybody else for this color scheme that I know of. So it is a challenge to get all of his parts. But it looks kind of cool. Looks like someone that would be flying through the air, I guess you could say. At least someone that would pilot something. And this is getting into... Now this really does say Neon 90s. So when you think neon, it's kind of like a bright neon colors going on right here. Especially with the neon look to the visor. But I do think that visor makes him look really cool. So, and it's not easy to catch that visor. And I was going to do some cheap tricks and get like a cheap figure that had a visor, maybe a Battle Force 2000, and pull it off there and put him on. But it wouldn't have looked right because he has to have that kind of blue tint to it. But anyway, there's Cloudburst. Now getting into Skymate, this, I kind of feel like he's from down under, like from Australia. And they went a step further with him. He's got a visor that goes up and down. And for whatever reason, it needs to be adjustable. It is. And he's got a kind of green and yellow and stuff going on right there. He comes with a boomerang. Again, feels like he's from down under. Mate and a boomerang. And yeah, that's kind of cool. Holds his boomerang like that. I am terrified of losing this thing. It seems like such an easy part that can get easily lost. And then he has this bow and arrow. Now here's the thing about the bow and arrow. It can clip. He's got a spot right here, and there's a hole right there, and it can clip on there. So that is kind of a thing that it can do. And then getting over here to the back of him, that's what he looks like. Really a cool looking figure overall, but very hard to get him complete. And all of his silly little parts there. And you got to be super careful not to lose the boomerang, which I like the fact that it can clip into his side there. Very, very cool. Now we're going to get into Sky Creeper. And this one, like his helmet, looks a lot like similar to the helmet that goes on Flint. But I also want to say, mine's got a lot of paint wear to him. So he's crash landed too many times. But I did get this from my buddy Philip, so obviously missing the gun. Hard to track down that stupid gun. That is a tough one to get. And yeah, he's a pretty cool looking figure overall. Got some black, yellow, and some teal, turquoise. And I tried to get him on a nice yellow stand because he was all covered in yellow. Now this figure feels like one you'd want to troop build the heck out of because he's cool and because he's purple. And this is, I believe it's Night Vulture. And I should have looked that up prior to this, but it's got to be Night Vulture. He has this crossbow thing that looks really cool, and he has some sort of orange on there. Oh, I guess I ended up, this one particular one had a spare crossbow I put on him. Kind of came in a lot, I guess, and I can't remember, but somehow he's got two. I'll take two. I would think that this would be a fun one to troop build, but then again, probably not a cheap one to troop build. For whatever reason, these figures are not the cheapest, especially with their accessories. They can get to be quite pricey. This is the Air Commandos. Alright, next we're getting into the battle copters, and this is the Interrogator. He has a lot of questions, by the way. And then this is Major Altitude. They come with these battle copters. I'll show you how they work. I'm not going to be like making them fly too far, but let's look at Major Altitude. He has a helmet. It's a huge, massive helmet. Got that stash going on. What's up with the stash? Pretty nice stuff there. And he's got the straps here, which kind of look like something that would be strapped onto a parachute or something. That would be kind of cool there. He's got multiple different greens. Not really into the neon so much just yet. There's his silver gun. But yeah, pretty cool looking figure. Pretty interesting. And very, very G.I. Joe-y. Now, Interrogator does look like sort of more modern era Cobra dude. And he looks pretty cool. And he is one that is quite a challenge. I think this one is pretty hard to get. Especially with that weird looking gun of his with sort of, looks like a triple grabber claw. I don't even know if I can get that on. It's got like 3 little prongs to grab onto stuff. So pretty interesting there. He's got a tiny little Cobra symbol in the middle of his chest. And like a chain going on there. A couple of grenades. Gray and blue. Interesting looking figure. Probably a challenging one to troop build in my opinion. But all this is about the battlecopters. So what are you supposed to do with the battlecopters? Well, they're a little bit different. There's the over-the-top handles. They clip into place here. And then this is the lower under the handles on the bad guys' battlecopter. So they're not the exact same thing. They're similar yet different, as their designs are different. But they both have the same exact handles. And they have different colors. This has a little G.I. Joe on it. And you basically put a figure in here, which I'm not going to put the figure in there. And then you kind of clip this to this. And there should be a notch where it sort of clips into place. Then you just spin it. Yeah, so once you've got it together, you just kind of ripcord it and spin it. And it'll just take off flying. I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. Anyway. Not the greatest gimmick in the world, but I mean, we saw this in the 90s, we saw that with an Inspector Gadget figure. Other things kind of did that twirly thing. And then they actually have one with the recalled Roadblock has a tiny version of it that's just kind of like a small, doesn't connect to the figure or anything, but these are battlecopters. Also, I found it cheaper. It was actually cheaper for me to get one in the box. So we can take a quick look at the box. It was cheaper to get one in the box than it was to get a loose one complete. And so I don't have boxes to a lot of stuff, but I got it to this, so just kind of see what's going on here. That's battlecopters. Kind of fun. Alright, we are now going to get full into Cobra, and we're just going to get batty. I'm going to get nuts. Let's get a little nuts here with the Cobra Bat. Now, they changed up the bat. He's a little more sleek and streamlined and different. And since I've got 2, I don't have 3. I like to troop build to 3 if I troop build, but 2 I guess is all I'm gonna have with this guy for now. And it does come with a different type of lenticular than the other ones. It's different, still pretty cool. And he comes with 2 attachments. either you have his hand or you have this sonic laser blaster thing, whatever that is. So I ended up with like extra parts. So I've got one with an extra sonic blaster thing on it. So that's okay. That's kind of cool. But you've got a spot, which is really weird. So on the original Bat, you had 3 compartments, 3 tabs, and you had 3 alternate pieces. Well, you only have 2 pieces total, the hand or this. So that's my understanding of this, and that's all. But, I mean, that is an extra piece of mine. Watch where you're swinging that thing. It also comes with this giant, large missile. It launches at the touch of a button. Come on, launch. There it is. Don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it like I've lost other ones in the past. But he does look pretty cool. But here's the thing. If you've got a Bat, then the original Bats, it's kind of like I got my original Bat army. And I'm like, I will not be really troop building these past the 3. That's for sure. But it kind of also has that same feel of a futuristic modern upgrade to the Bat. And I think they did that well. I don't want to track down more accessories, but I really felt like they should have had more attachments. Aside from that, pretty cool Bat. Next up, we have Cobra Commander version 4. And I will have to say this, that I did not pull his face mask off. In fact, I was trying to buy one. I didn't buy this complete. So I was like, well, my second one I get that has the parts I'm missing. Let's just get one that's got the face mask already pulled off. But anyhow, I just ended up just tracking down the parts and made it happen. It's still pretty cool. Now, when it comes to like Transformers, there's always an Optimus Prime and a Megatron. When it comes to all of these toy lines, they've got to have the main characters. And we've got version 4 of Cobra Commander. So you got to have a Cobra Commander on the shelf. And he isn't really too far of a departure from the character. Because when you look at him, you could kind of say, yeah, that kind of fits into the Cobra scheme and Cobra world. But the face shield being an orange is a bit of a weird turnoff in a way. I would have liked just another silver face mask. Would have, to me, felt like it matched the character better. But they didn't do that. It's orange. It is different. And that's his nice touch of neon 90s. And getting into him, he's got some blue and black. And in the center, I like that. Kind of like the Interrogator in a way, except that his is on his midsection. And it's a nice Cobra symbol. It looks pretty good. Almost every one of these figures I've come across is in good shape, which means it didn't get played with that much. And he's got this gun here. What is this? Some sort of a full automatic Uzi kind of thing going on. In gold. He's got to have it in gold because, you know, he's Cobra Commander. But the weird thing is he's got this little drone launching bomb missile kind of thing, which we'll see a vehicle here in a little while that has this, but much bigger. And so that's kind of strange too. But anyway, you pull this back and then you launch it, which we'll see what happens here, I guess. It launched. In all reality, the fact that it's just basically, it feels just saying like the plastic that a bubble would be made out of, the bubble for the card back blister. And it's got a little bit of weight in the front with this piece of plastic and just some paint on it. It should fly pretty well. I mean, really, it should fly. So it's a pretty good idea for flying. But it does feel like they do a lot of things that are gimmicky and they just repeat the same gimmick over and over and over. Kind of like with the Sonic Fighters and some of these other gimmicks that they come up with, the backpacks that make noise and all of that. They just repeat the same gimmick, and that's what they're going to do with this in a vehicle for that year. Anyway, this is Cobra Commander version 4, and pretty cool Cobra Commander overall. Now we're getting into some troop builders. Now, I don't think the Crimson Guard Immortal was supposed to be a troop builder, but the Crimson Guard Immortal might just have been one dude, but I don't know 100%. But I still look at it as a troop builder, and I think that it's cool, and I think a lot of other people troop build this also. I only have 2 that I can say are complete, and then we're going to compare it to a fun school, which I think is really fun, actually. But getting into this, he has a backpack with 3 spare missiles, plus, it comes with a total of 6 missiles. 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Plus, he's got 2 missile launchers right here. He does have an ammo belt going to these missile launcher. And it's probably not an ammo belt. It's probably like an energy kind of, so it functions, it can shoot launch. It's got like a dual laser blaster at the top here on this one, and then another launcher on the lower part. So different handheld pieces. They're not two of the same thing. He does look cool. He is crimson, and he just looks really rad. And I like that silver. I like the crimson color and then the black accents. Really is a cool looking figure overall. But Fun School made them, and they made the exact same figure, except they kind of gave him some recolors of some stuff. So instead of black for the guns, he got silver for the guns. Instead of black for the missiles, he got yellow for the missiles. A little bit different recoloring in the head, and the overall color of the crimson is slightly different. Then he's got an orange backpack, which I don't think the orange backpack's the coolest part, but it is what it is. But that yellow, it pops, and this really feels like, you know, you think Neon 90s, that this would have been how they made the figure. But in all reality, the original standard one is the coolest. But I had to pick this one up just because of the color scheme variation being so different. And can I get that in there? On camera, everything's a lot harder. Anyway, Crimson Guard Immortal is actually a really cool figure. Next up we have Desert Scorpion. I have to say this is one of the fiddliest figures that's out there and extremely challenging to get complete. And I got outbid on, I don't know, at least a dozen of these. I just couldn't believe it always goes up over $50 if one's complete. I haven't checked lately, but it is really strange. Now, the figure itself, well, he comes with this scorpion, so that's kind of cool. The hose leads from the side of his head to his backpack. I can't get all of it to work properly and hold in place. I'm sure if I fiddled with it more, but it's so fiddly. So you have this, let's just get into this whole thing. He does have kind of like Dusty's sand sort of soft good right there. He's got this backpack. It has this gizmo on it that it goes up and down, and then you fold this over. It's a cool idea in concept, but in reality, it's kind of sucks. It really does kind of suck because it doesn't hold in place right. It's always flopping around and falling off and stuff. Not really the greatest execution of what is a kind of cool idea. It's kind of a cool idea. Anyway, he has these diggers, which he's only supposed to have. There's a left and a right. He's only supposed to have them either for his arms, and I've seen people put them on his lower legs. I just took the ones off this guy and put them on this guy, just because I wanted to see what it looked like with 4 of them on there, just for fun, just weird, crazy stuff. He does have a Cobra tattoo. He went the next level with the tattoo instead of just insignia. He's wearing it, and he's made for desert operation, so he can sort of have some desert look to him. Sleeveless is weird. It's a bunch of weird stuff with this guy. But yeah, this is an interesting looking figure. I was just surprised how extremely popular he is and how people go after this thing like crazy. It is really hard to get a good one and get them complete. And yeah, it was challenging. Now I got 3 because I was buying several to piece together. It was just, that's how hard it was. I do at least I'll have 1 complete, but Desert Scorpion, such a tough one. Probably, I think I saw a little bit in the show. Desert Scorpion, there's several of them. They're a pretty cool character in the show, too. Next up, we have the Incinerator Trooper, which, let's get a nice shot of that. Incinerator Troopers here. A little army of them. It is quite strange of a figure that they have going on here. So, I want to show that a fun-looking troop builder. He is getting into some neonish with the orange and the red and the launcher, which is ridiculous, by the way. It is ridiculous. But he's sort of got, I think, just on his own as a figure, just looking like, with a backpack and his huge flamethrower, is enough. Good enough for a kid. But they had to compete. They had to be competitive on 12. And we got to give you something, this launcher here. So let's just show that real quick. It comes with 2 of these launching projectiles. They're clear, kind of orangish looking. You just kind of set it on there. It has a groove to set on there, and then you put the rubber band, goes around it like this, and then it just shoots. So that's what that's all about. Now, the figure itself, there's a Cobra symbol right in the center of the chest, and there's a hose connecting from the backpack to here. It's quite interesting. And Pretty cool figure, though. I think this is a cool overall figure. One that would be fun to troop build and have several. Now, they did reuse this whole gimmick, but it's a slightly different orange. For this figure here, they call it Effects, which, as you can see, it's got the different orange to it. And the launcher is black on this one, so with the same launcher and everything. So they just keep reusing these gimmicks over and over and over, and that's kind of what they do in the 90s. This is the Incinerator Trooper, which is kind of like a blowtorch for the bad guys. Next up we have Snow Serpent. Is it version 2, I guess? I don't know. He looks pretty interesting. And this is another one that would be a troop builder. He's got some interesting gimmicks going on with him. But feels a lot like they kind of took their idea with Snake Eyes and just moved it into the bad guy realm. Then we see in the future another one with a surfboard, in I think next year or the year after, but it's on the good guy side. It is kind of cool that we have dual tamper-graphed Cobra symbols on his lower legs there, on his boots, and he comes with a reuse. I think this looks exactly like Blizzard's gun. It looks like it, but I'm not sure if they're the exact same gun or not. They look similar. And then he's got this gun, which actually I don't see a whole lot of in reuse, so that's kind of cool there too. But he's not all white. It's either he's off-white or he's faded, and he's got some yellow and some tans to it. But here he goes on the back. He has this. Now there's a couple things you can do. You can clip his boogie board or his surfboard, his snowboard. It can clip to the back here. You just turn this sideways. And then this thing here, of course, is the launcher, and it launches. You just push this back to launch it. And this is the time where they only came with one missile. Later on, you're going to see they come with multiple missiles. But and then whenever you're loading it, wherever the notch is, well, this one's dual notched, but wherever the notch is, you want the notch to go towards wherever the trigger is. Aim towards it, because that's just kind of how the function works. But anyway, pretty cool, interesting figure. People like to troop build this, makes it hard to get, and people act like it's gold, even though it's not gold, it's orange. This is Snow Serpent. Alright, now we get into the Eco Warriors, but this is the bad guy, Cobra Eco Warriors. So, guessing that these are the ones putting out the toxins and the Joes are cleaning them up. Is that how it goes? He does come with one of these plunger things. It's purple, I think. Blue, purple. Anyhow, I will back these up so we can look at it. Starting with Cesspool, which I never really understood. He's a very popular figure. People love this Cesspool figure. But it turns out the big difference is he's like a $20 figure, except for this one little piece on his helmet turns him into like a $70 figure. I don't know. It's that breather. I didn't even know that was a thing until my buddy was like, well, if you get Cesspool, make sure he's got his breather. I was like, wait, I didn't know that's a thing because I never ever see it with that breather on it. His face looks like he's got like a big scar right down his face. He's kind of old. And he's got white, gray hair. But let's make sure we put this on, we don't lose the breather. And with that, this is the pumping action. Nice pumping action there. And he comes with a chainsaw. So it's kind of interesting, cool stuff. And he's got multiple different colors. Same situation where when they get sprayed and they're wet, they're going to have some hypercolor paint kind of stuff that's going to show up. And for me, it's just permanently stained on my figure there. Then here is, this one is one of the Sludge Viper. So this one's the Sludge Viper. I believe the Sludge Viper and the Toxo Viper have almost the same weapons. They're just slightly different shades of purple. But then again, they might just be the exact same thing. I don't know. Those weapons look so similar on them. And this is a case where I trust my seller of having the right equipment on them. I just absolutely don't really care. He's got all of his sludge stuff stained on him. And I really think that's what affects the value. When you troll the bottom of the price range, you get the ones that got the stains on them versus ones that still look pretty decent. So you can still get some decent looking ones out there. I don't know if the paint, when you get them wet, is going to show up the way it's supposed to. This one here is the Toxo Viper. Now, basically what this thing is just like a squirt gun. You suck up the water and then you shoot it all out. It's nothing special, but these appear to be the same backpacks. and the same guns, but slightly different colors to them. And yeah, they reuse a lot. Now, I'm not against the reuse of weapons and accessories, which makes it easier to collect down the road, but it is a lazy maneuver. This guy here is kind of all green and purple and interesting kind of muted colors. This guy doesn't feel like he's in neon territory. He just feels like Cobra. That is Eco Warriors for Cobra. So I guess you could call these subgroups, because this is the Cobra version of the Supersonic Fighters, but I don't exactly call these subgroups, but they are subgroups. I just don't view it that way, but they are repaints. So they treat it the same as like Tiger Force and all of them by just repainting figures. So I guess, I don't know. I don't know why I don't look at them the same way. Probably because these giant backpacks, but they just repack a whole bunch of weapons from, that's a Battle Force 2000 weapon, guns and stuff. This is Lampreys. And the thing about this guy is it's a recolor of the hydrofoil driver into a neon orange. And he's got his Cobra symbol on him. And he's got a little bit of blue with him. It's kind of cool. In fact, this might actually be a cooler version of Lamprey. If you want, it would be kind of cool to get a spare one of him and put him in the hydrofoil next to the other ones, because you could see several of them manning that thing. But he does come with these interesting accessories. It feels like just a ton of reuse of stuff. He does have a knife right here. So there is what he's got going on. I do try to put all this stuff on him at once, which is kind of crazy. I don't know anyone else that probably does that. But this is what the whole attraction is. So if getting a repainted figure and a whole bunch of just unnecessary accessories, now you get this make a noise. So they all do the same thing for the most part. And yes, he can wear it as a backpack also. I just didn't put him on him. But now we get into the Viper. Now this is, I think, the 4th version of the Viper. Gotta look that one up. And his backpack makes him back heavy. But yeah, which version of the Viper is this? Viper 3. So it's the 3rd version of the Viper. And he comes with this gun here, which is pretty standard reuse. It's going to be seeing a lot. This was, I think this one is the one that was from Annihilator, just recolored. And it's just a Viper. And it's an interesting color scheme. It's kind of fun. This is a little more challenging one to get because he's a troop building Viper. His backpack makes those sounds. Actually, I think, no, all these backpacks are quite unique. So there's no reuse in the backpacks, which is strange. You got all new backpack, but reuse everything else. Now this is reused also from, was it Downtown? No, I forgot. One of these other Joes. One of the Joes had this in black, but this is like a missile launcher, mortar launcher, something like that. That is now in gold. Now that it's in gold, you got to be careful because the gold plastic syndrome could break. Anyway, Sonic Fighters for the Cobra. Now for the vehicles, this is the Badger, and it's the only like real vehicle that I have. It was free or given to me or something. I didn't buy it or go after it. That's how the kind of canopy opens. It connects to these missiles. There's a missile launcher that's supposed to be here, and then there's supposed to be a giant, somehow an antenna connects, I guess, to that. A giant antenna with an American flag on it. So this is very cheap filling vehicle, really. It's a one-manner. Should be some spots that you can put some pegs for the figures on it. It's kind of got that unibody style, just one chunk of plastic and some stuff connected to it. It's okay. It's an alright vehicle, but mine's not complete, and it's okay. Now, getting into the next one, we're going to talk about the Attack Cruiser. Now, this is the one that has kind of like the drone missile firing thing that we saw with Cobra Commander version 4. And so they just reuse that same gimmick, just on a bigger scale, on a grander scale for the vehicle. The vehicle does kind of look kind of cool, and I did see this in person and mess with it a little bit, but it still does. I mean, these feel like cheaper versions of vehicles and versus what they did back in the day. Then we get into the Battle Wagon. Now, Battle Wagon looks pretty big, actually. And it looks like it's got some stuff going on where you have multiple missiles that would fire on the giant multiple missile firing cannon. I'm not 100% sure if that's automated or if you turn something as they shoot. some way that mechanism probably has to work. Looks like you can accommodate at least 3, if not 5 figures on this thing. And there's little guns and stuff. It just looks big. Looks big. Almost into sort of Mad Max territory, but not quite. Next up we get into the Brawler, and the Brawler is like a tank in a way, but sort of a futuristic tank, a giant tank cannon on the top. No drivers in these, so all these are just packed without drivers, so they aren't, there's nothing major, like no Rolling Thunder of this year, nothing just really massive major, but this is a pretty good sized one. Maybe it's their biggest one for Joe, or maybe the Battle Wagon was their biggest. Next we get the Ice Saber. The Ice Saber is a pretty cool snow vehicle. If you really wanted to double, triple, quadruple down on snow vehicles, they just keep making interesting snow vehicles with some sort of tread skis on the front, and just, I don't know, I've never handled this vehicle. Looks like you've got one driver and you could clip some of the figures onto it, and you got some missiles and stuff on the back, but interesting looking one. Next we have the Paralyzer for the bad guys, Cobra. Now this one, it's the back, I think, elevates up on this. I think that's the gimmick on the Paralyzer. That might have been the Brawler gimmick. Anyway, anyhow you slice it, it's like a 4-tread tank kind of deal. It's weird, but it's sort of futuristic. Trying to think outside the box, go in a different direction, and some missile launchers and lasers. The Eco Warriors got the Septic Tank, which looks to me just like a reuse of the His tank, but a heavy retool. But maybe it's built from the ground up. They just use ideas. But it's an interesting looking one. Not one that I would be super into. And then they did some mail order reissues of different color Ferret and Triple T, which those are actually sought after. And then the Slugger and the Wolf, I think, are just exactly the same. There's nothing different about them, but interesting stuff going on right there. And, yeah, there it is for 1991. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this look at 1991 on this Retro Wednesday of every figure, vehicle, and a playset. And it was a pretty cool year. They did some cool stuff, and as you can see, they were trying to keep up with other toy lines and other companies out there that were doing some other things. But with that, it does have some gems. There are some cool figures in this and some interesting concepts for some of these vehicles, and it was kind of a fun year. And wasn't too many figures in this year. I feel like it was a reasonable lineup for a year of toys. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Teddy Hanger out.